the Taliban, and it should be the same set of rules and questioning.
Robert Lustig, BBC. Kathy, I'm very interested in what you said about the blame that attaches to particularly the US media in the run-up to the war in Iraq. Would you accept that to some extent they have learnt the lesson? I mean, I know there was a huge amount of soul-search after the Iraq invasion. A lot of American media did ask themselves why they had failed and how they had failed. And I wonder if you can compare the way in which they handled the pre-invasion period in Iraq and the way in which they're handling the Iran nuclear program story now. Is it your impression that there is far more questioning now as a result of the mistakes that were made pre-2003? Second question, just on embedded journalists. Would you accept that embedded journalism has a role to play as part of a greater whole? Because I know certainly in the US and the British press, there was a feeling that readers, listeners and viewers had the right to know what it felt to be an invading army. And that if they embedded reporters with invading armies, then that was a picture which otherwise would not be available. Yes, on its own it's not enough, but would you accept it's part of a broader picture?
Sure. If you're doing a story on the soldiers, absolutely. I mean, you're doing, but if you're doing a story on what the village and Panjwai is responding to development assistance, it's very difficult because the soldiers are doing both development, they're doing invasion, they're doing this. So, sure, if you're doing a story on what's it like to be a British soldier in the middle of Helmand, absolutely 100%. But if you're doing a story on what's it like for that villager in Helmand who's been bombed, the hell has been bombed out of the villager, that's a different thing. Do I think that we've learned the lesson? I think that we do ask more questions, still we're not great at it. But then isn't that, we should have been asking the questions when back right after 2001. Are we asking more questions? Sure, but I don't think we really learned the lessons, There's still a lot of stuff comes out that until the report, the CIA report comes out, and says, oh, geez, it turns out that they don't really have very much. Okay, now we're all on the bandwagon saying, gee, maybe they don't have so much. I'm talking about journalism, I'm not talking about editorials or whatever. But in terms of journalism and that investigative spirit, it becomes, that spirit of investigating is enlivened after the report has come out, and it's like, yeah, well,
because one of the problems we had is you can never prove a negative. It is never possible for a reporter to say, I know for sure there are no weapons of mass destruction, I know for sure there is no nuclear weapons program.
But you can say, what are the questions that haven't been answered? What are the questions that haven't been answered? What is the information that we do have? And so, it's not for us to make this decision.
No.
It's for us to give the information that is available. Ahead or off, okay,
Sorry.
A lot has been spoken about the use of biased vocabulary in war on terror. My question to you is that why do journalists use this biased jargon unquestioningly? Do they want to show or make the people read what actually public wants to read?
Well, it's hard to, yeah, I mean, it's hard to know. I always think of the Abu Ghraib, I mean, if it was anyone else, it would be torture. I was reading the stories coming out, it was like maltreatment, it was this, it was that. The use of the word torture was just not used. And I'm reading, I mean, I read lots of stuff from everybody. I mean, not the German press, sorry, or, but from, and really, I was just, I read stories about Islam and Muslims. I mean, I'm sorry, put in the Pope, and or Jewish or whatever, you will not have that same story, or you will have an outcry. People will be enraged that story is being published and that you're looking at, even Obama, some of the stuff about Hussein, and there's a whole thing, a story I read, and I thought, my God, if it would have been Jewish or Catholic or there would have been an outcry. Oh, no, wasn't. Okay. It's just, and we as journalists have really let that down. We've fallen into it and we do it, and editors fall for the story.